Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Real Talk Live with Rodney Grimes, PTP. People to people, power to power, positive thinking people. As I told you, I was going to bring these two gentlemen back. These two gentlemen, we was here, I think it was June 25th, if I remember correctly. And the conversation was so powerful, the conversations that I received afterwards were just even more enlightening when I was getting a response from individuals who heard the conversation that we were sharing, talking about the things that's going on in the community, dealing with our history, talking about the police brutality, and so forth and so on. My guest today again is Don Jarrett from Old Town Alexandria, and Norman Colvin from Old Town Alexandria, and myself, Rodney Grimes, from Old Town Alexandria. We all was born in Old Town, and we've seen quite a few things and experienced a lot of things together, because they're a lot older than me. But on the real, these guys have always carried themselves in a very, very strong and positive way. And even now, where we are today is just amazing, because we have dialogue that's so important for us to keep sharing and moving forward and put it out to the public. So our topic today is black man's conversation. That's what the topic is. So as I told you, it's real talk. We don't rehearse anything. We just keep it real. We talk about the things that's going on. And we was having a little chat prior to us coming live. And Don, we was talking about when you were saying about we doing the marches and everything, but where you were saying that it needs to go further. What were you saying about Congress?
I was just saying that the marches are fine. It brings recognition to the problem, to the situation. But it needs to go further than just the marches. It has to go up into your legislation. So that's where the change has to be made, because we can march 24/7 unless we send people into legislation and change the laws about what's going on. Then ain't nothing too much is going to change that much, and we'll just be marching. Things will just keep happening the way they happen. So it has to be like a flower. It has to bloom from the inside, not the outside. Right. The outside is given the notice to it, but it has to go into our laws, and they have to change some things in order for us to move forward. And it's time to move forward. It's time for change. And I think it's, and this is a whole new generation.
Yeah. From
when we marched, or I saw them march back in the 60s. And they always say that things have to happen before change. Change just don't change. Things have to happen. Sometimes people have to be murdered, or something have to happen desperately or detrimental to society in order for change to come about. So I think it's that time, though. But we have to push into the law, the bylaws, and the legislation for real change to come about. Other than that, we'll just be out there marching.
So saying that and speaking about going to the Congress and going to the Capitol and going to all of those individuals who hold those positions, that's why it's important to vote. That's why it's important for people to hear our voices. Outside of the fact that we're walking down the street holding a sign saying Black Lives Matter, we want to do away with the treatment of that negative image that the police have to the black men in America. We talk about these things, we march, but the only way that they're going to change is when we bring it to the table of Congress and we make them.
Because let me just say this, we've done all the peaceful marching. It got us nowhere. People march, okay, go ahead. I don't say be violent or anything like that, but it's got to go a step further than just peaceful marching. It has to go into the Congress and the senators and Republicans, and they have to change some things in order for the change to be made.
So what's your take on that?
Yeah. The thing about voting is this, and changing the laws, the legislation, the policy. Policy has to be written, but this doesn't start from Congress. This starts from your local government.
Okay.
Because that is what affects you directly first. See, when you vote in those judges, and when you vote for your mayor, your city councilman, and those people, because that directly affects you immediately.
How about that?
You see,
Right.
it doesn't trickle down from Congress to you. That takes years. This happens instantly. You see, the police chief who answers to the mayor, the mayor who answers to the governor. You understand? Those are the people who directly affect your life. When a police kills you on the street, and he's suspended, this goes to the chief first. When it goes to the chief, it goes to the attorney general. You see, these are people that you're putting in office. When they start dismissing it, because this is where it gets hung up. This is where we're getting caught up. We're getting caught up locally. And once it's dismissed locally, it never makes it to Congress. It never makes it up there in order for anything to happen in any way. They don't get it until we start marching.
Yeah.
They don't get it until we start pushing to a point where it's at a crescendo, because they've been hiding it at that level for so long.
Yeah.
You see, so that's what it has to happen first.
So we just heard from both of the gentlemen that's a process. We have to get out and vote, and we have to start. We got to start with the people that's right there at our door front. And then we make those people be responsible for when they go over to Congress, that they have to represent us and know that we mean business, and we hold them accountable for the things that's going on. Like you said, so you mentioned it, you said it's like a flower. It starts to bloom, and it starts as a seed, and then it gets a stem. And then the next thing it starts getting some, and once it forms, and by the time it forms to a level where it's really a flower, that's when it's at Congress.
Bingo. And the inside of it is your neighbor. The inside of it is your city.
Yeah.
The inside, to Don's point, is your local city, your county. Those officials.
Right.
That's the inside. That's where it has to start. That's where it grows. That's where the change has to start. Because everything that we're marching about, everything we're talking about right now, even back to the 60s with Dr. King and Martin, all this stuff starts being hid from the general public and from the world at that local level. It stopped right there on their desks. That's where it stops.
Yes.
And it piles up and it builds up, and then it's dismissed and it's pushed to the side. So it never gets there. It never gets up there for anything to happen. When it does get there, it's just a minor snippet of the actual events and things that happen. It's been watered down so much till it's nothing, and then nothing happens.
What happens is, just from my opinion, I believe that when it starts to get watered down, these are people trying to protect themselves.
Of course.
Right? What they're trying to do is sweep it under the rug. Yeah. This didn't happen in my neighborhood. This didn't happen in my city.
They've been doing it for years.
They've been doing it for years. Especially when it comes to us. See, this is something, I try to make it, I try not to make it about race, but we talking about what's going on in this country. When something happened to a young white kid, it's all over the place, whether it's positive or negative. When it's something that happened to a black kid, it's either swept under the rug, or if it's something that they can put it out to have our image to be tarnished, they publicize that.
Correct.
And they only let that go but so far too.
Correct. But you can't have a candid conversation about anything having to do with America and not talk about race. That's just asinine as screw. You can't do it. This country itself is built on that premise.
This is the most racist country in the world.
In the world. The one that sits next to it is South Africa. There are more people incarcerated in this country than any other place in the world. The only one, the country that's next to it is South Africa. So you can't have a candid conversation about the United States and relations, period, if you're not talking about race.
And the rest of the world knows it.
Correct. You have to become uncomfortable to get comfortable, because it seems to be that America is uncomfortable talking about race. They are not comfortable sitting there. If two other white guys were sitting right here, they would be so uncomfortable that they would be shaking. And we're having a conversation. But they're not shaking because they're scared. They're shaking because they have been spooked as it pertains to black people over the years. And it may not be, and it may not have anything to do with anything physical. It just has to do with what they've been told and what they've been fed and what they've been conditioned as it pertains to us. If they say something wrong, then this conversation will shift. You see, it won't remain intellectual. It'll shift in a direction where they won't be comfortable with, so they'll be uncomfortable having the conversation. This thing permeates throughout our entire society, and it's their fault. It's not our fault. Because we've been trying to have this conversation forever. See, and when you start having these conversations, you have to point the finger where it's supposed to be pointed. Don't point it at you because you want to make them comfortable. You can't make them comfortable by setting yourself beside them in a way that you don't belong. You can't do that. If it's not your fault, it's not your fault. If it's their fault, it's their fault, and you have to tell them that. Right. You can't say it's your fault, but. No, it's no buts. It's your fault, period. Right. There's no but to that. This is what you did.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to write off what you said, and I don't call people names out because I don't like to really throw people out, not unless they're there to defend themselves. But I have an associate who's a white male that I think that when I have this conversation, just what you said, when it's in the presence and I bring it to the forefront, he gets uncomfortable. He gets uncomfortable, not because he did anything to me, not because he did anything to my ancestors. He gets uncomfortable because for real, he knows that I am speaking the truth. And he's been programmed to believe, that I am lesser than
he is. I've had several conversations with I've had conversations with a whole lot of white folks about race relations and so forth. I've had heated conversations with white men about race and so forth, intellectually, but when the conversation gets to a point where because they have been fed so much insofar as them being or told that they are superior,
they have ignored
that they are and so when this conversation starts shifting to a point where it gets into an area where they are unfamiliar, you see, or they don't know, or that they have been debunked, or that they can't answer a question fluently as it pertains to the subject matter, then not only do they become uncomfortable, they become angry. And their response is as such. It's gone so far as one of them to call me the N-word. And I said, so now I'm not a man no more. I'm not an intellectual anymore. I'm not a conversationalist anymore. I'm this guy. So when did I become this guy? Because for the last half hour we've been talking, but all of a sudden now I'm something else to you. Then I said to him this, but that's not you talking. Because if that was you talking, we never would have had the conversation that we had 30 minutes into this thing. So right now, this is your father talking. This is your grandfather talking. You see, because you have reverted to a point now where you are uncomfortable and you went to a place where you never was.
Come on.
You was never there. You wasn't there when you approached me. You wasn't there when we sat there. You wasn't there 2 days ago.
Come on.
You're there now. You're there now because you're uncomfortable intellectually and you never thought that that could happen to you. And you viewed me in a manner, you judged me. And when you judged me, you didn't judge me intellectually. You judged me as a black man lesser than you. But when I elevated, because you didn't see that coming, based on my persona, you didn't see that coming. I didn't have a suit and tie on, so you didn't see that coming. When that happened, it shocked you. I became something else. But that word that you just called me, that's not where you live. That's where your father lives.
Come on.
And that's where your grandfather lives. So I'm going to get you.
I truly believe that. A lot of them, in a sense, has ignored the fact that they're going to deal with, because it doesn't come in their backyard and haunt them. So some of them probably, they know about racism, but they don't want to deal with it because it doesn't affect them in any kind of way.
Well, wait a minute. When you say it doesn't affect them when they're in the white privilege
That's their everyday life. That's
Right.
what
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It doesn't affect them in that manner. But they
Right.
know it's there. They know we've been treated bad.
Right.
They know that.
Of
But
course.
since it doesn't affect them, then they're not going to, for years, we're not going to do anything about it.
Do you know one of the things? So I've heard several different people, different speakers, to say something, and I was really tickled when some white people would stand up and say, "How many people that are white would want to be black?"
I seen the episode of that.
You saw that, right?
The lady.
And nobody
She educates
white people on racism.
Right.
And so not one of them raised their hand.
So let me finish that for you.
Go ahead.
So then she goes to say, then y'all telling me that y'all know something's wrong.
Wrong, exactly.
Yeah.
See, so what we run into on many cases is when we speak as black men, we speak from black men experiences,
Perspective.
right?
And
It-
perspective.
yeah, it's something not that we make up. I try to tell a white associate of mine. I said, how many times when you get in the elevator, do people start to look at you as if you're getting ready to do something to them? Now, just think back on a daily basis. What happens is when a black man gets on the elevator, and if there's not more than 2 or 3 blacks on there, people start to tense up for some reason. But that's because they were.
It's not. They don't tense up for some reason. They're tensed up because they've been conditioned to think about us in a certain manner.
Right, yeah.
And this has been going on since slavery.
Yes.
You understand? When slavery was abolished, when the Emancipation Proclamation, Juneteenth came, and everybody knew that they were free, right? So, knew that they technically free. The black man had to find a way to make a living, right?
Okay.
The watermelon stereotype. You all know where it came from? We couldn't make a living. We couldn't make a living at too many things, right? So this group of blacks in the South started selling watermelons on the side of the road.
Okay.
The Great Depression came, right? So they became destitute, and their lives became hard. But the watermelons that they were selling, these group of people were monitoring them, and they were selling a lot of watermelons, making a lot of money. So they had to come up with something to change that narrative, so that they could take over that business. So they put out caricatures depicting black people as watermelon eaters with big red lips and cartoonists. When that happened, white folks start feeding into it because they wanted to look at us in a certain way, because they viewed us in a certain way. When that happened, they stopped buying watermelons from the black guys. But although they like watermelons.
Right.
So they didn't stop buying them, period. So where do you think they went to next?
They go to
The corner store.
yeah.
And they started buying their watermelons. The black guys on the side of the road, watermelon stands went out of business. And so the caricature and the stereotype continued, and as a result of that, even since it worked so well, even more popped up. And they started depicting us in all kind of inhuman ways, dehumanizing us. You see?
Hey, Mike, we got Michael Johnson. Hey, brother, hey, let me tell you, man, really, you should be sitting in here too. Mike said when we march, we have to place demands on our local officials who sits on the most highest legislation.
Correct. That's what we were just.
And that's what we were just speaking about. That's what Don was brought up in the beginning, and Norman. I know him by Fleet, so y'all bear with me, because I wouldn't just call you Fleet. This is what I grew up with. He my homeboy, so it's hard for me to keep saying Norman. So y'all work with me. But when Fleet was saying what he was saying, and we talk about this, we know that it's a process. The one thing that this is what this is about. When I talk real talk to you, I'm talking people to people, power to power, power to thank people. This is what we talk about. People to people, the people that's in Congress, the people you was talking about that's right there. We're talking to local officials.
Correct.
These people are the ones we have to hold responsible.
No question.
And we, the people, have to be responsible as well.
Correct.
So that we stand up to them and say, look, do you hear me? Because if you don't hear me, then I will march, I will destroy things, I will demand things, and I will get your attention. With the type of people that we are today, before we go down in chains we will go down in our grave. We will go down totally different.
Yeah, well, the young people today are different from the young people yesterday. They're different than we were.
Yes.
You know, and we were different than what our mothers and our fathers were, and so forth. The young folks today are smart. They are aggressive. They are radical, and they are not sitting down and with you just to sit down with you. They're not in the '60s. In the '60s, after the marches, groups of people would just sit down because they wanted to be at the table. You see, coming from our past and the deepest depths of that darkness. You see, that was the first glimmer that we had. So we were glad to get it. And when Martin and the rest of them, they sat down first with the local officials, got from the local officials, and got up to the White House, and some laws were passed. The Civil Rights Bill was passed, and quite a few others. But when they passed those laws and the Voting Rights Act, and they passed them, they locally were still sabotaging those laws. Yeah. Although those laws, they're still doing it today. Yeah. They're still doing it today with all the voter situations going on around the country. So they're still doing it today. So these things still happen today because of the local legislation. You can pass a law in Congress and it trickles down to your local government and nothing will happen. They'll bury that law just as sure as we're sitting here. Or they just want to enforce it. So you have to make sure that your local government reflects you. You have to make sure that your local government speaks for you. You have to make sure that the people that sit on that local panel have your best interest at heart. So it doesn't take a lot of your time. You just have to learn and educate yourself about who they are. What makes them think? What makes them tick?
It doesn't fit into their narrative.
Correct. And when that happens, you'll get a sense of who they are. Then you'll know whether to vote for them or not. That's because they are going to directly affect your life.
That's why what we were talking about is when you hear about town meetings. And you can go right up to the mayor's office and request to sit down with the mayor. You don't have to be nobody special. You can go right there because actually the mayor works for you. You vote to put him in office.
Wasn't that something Lenny was doing too?
Yeah,
we missed that.
Yeah, Lenny Harris was one of the individuals that would literally go to the mayor's office and sit down and discuss those things. And Michael Johnson also is another one.
He was working with him.
That was working with him and has those situations where they actually can walk into many offices and do this. Michael said, I do have a young brother. I do have a young brother who's out there on the streets willing to come on and share, Rod. We'll call you later to schedule. That's what we need. I want a young man on here because I want to hear from a young man's perspective. But I want to bring something back up here. So when we're talking about going out and voting, can we really take it real serious to a point where we got to say, look, we're going to not just vote just for the sake to say we voted. Take the time to realize who we're putting in there.
Correct.
Because what's going to happen is, one of y'all just said this, when you go in and sit down and have this conversation with that person, you now can look them in the eyes and you can find out what they really stand for, who they are, and if they really have good intentions.
Correct, but even if you never get to a point where you sit down with them face to face, when you see something happen in your community and you see immediately something happen as a result of what just happened in a manner in which you think is somebody, a member of your community. Once that happens, immediately, like in Atlanta, when the two officers pulled out those college kids, that mayor suspended them immediately. Then they went off the force right soon thereafter. When the boy killed the boy in Atlanta, she suspended him immediately and then subsequently fired him. the police union jumped all over her, saying that she acted impetuously and didn't give them a chance to investigate, and that sort of thing, which was ridiculous. But investigate after you do the right thing. You understand? So yeah, because if I shoot an unarmed person, regardless as to what the situation is,
They're gonna lock you up first.
correct, because I wasn't a threat. He wasn't a threat to me in no way. You understand? So whatever I did to him, that aggression at that point became unnecessary. Let me say this about this too, as far as the change that happened insofar as the streets are concerned, as it pertains to us and the police and them killing us and so forth. Their training, and this is all over the country. And I want to say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I hear this so much from people and all over the country that all police aren't bad, and there are more good police than there are bad police. That narrative is wrong. It's not true. If that was true, then we wouldn't be 60 years into this conversation.
Right.
You understand? I mean, the truth the trail tells me the truth about that area. There are more bad police than there are good ones. And that's just a fact, and we have to start saying it, because if we keep with this narrative that they are more good than bad, then they'll keep killing us, and the things that keep happening don't keep happening. Because if the flip side was true, we wouldn't be 60 years into this trail. You see, and the ones that they do say are bad or good, watch the bad, do what they do, and say nothing, which makes them exactly what they are. There is not one police station in this country that isn't racist, that doesn't have, that is not full of racist police officers. Not one. You can't find one police precinct or station in this country that's not full of racist police officers. That's just a fact.
So let me ask you this question. So if
Y'all keep on.
bad police does something, and the good police watch him do it, what that makes the good police?
It makes him a bad cop as well. What they're doing is towing a thin blue line.
Yeah,
That
they
thin
don't
blue
tell
line,
each other.
correct. But if they do, then they get fired. So these are from the people who I'm telling you to vote in office. So if you vote the right people in office, this wouldn't happen. That thin blue line would disappear, and what would appear is humanity, and the right thing would be done. Because that's what it should be. This thin blue line crap is ridiculous. They're hiding behind their badge. They're hiding behind this industry in a way that is allowing them to break the law. They are breaking the law with what they are doing, and they are getting away with it. And then you have a president that's sitting up there that will not change a law that's been sitting on his desk, that's been pushed to him as after George Floyd's death. You see, he's trying to change it and give them total autonomy at the same time. You can't do that. You can't, because we can't live in a police state. We can't. And when they talk about defunding the police, they're not talking about taking away the police officers, period. They're talking about restructuring them. They are just using the wrong verbiage. But they're talking about restructuring them. That's what they're talking about doing, restructuring the force. Now, the Republicans are using that to try to shift and push this wrong narrative. But that's what they're talking. That's what they're talking about doing.
So just a second. So what I'm saying, and this is what I want the public to understand. It's up to you, not them. It's up to you to make them be responsible for their actions. Because if we lay back and just sit back and watch everybody do things and think that they're going to do the right thing, they're going to keep sweeping it under the rug. We have to make the change within ourselves first, and then go into their areas and make them be accountable for all the things that's going on.
When you say make the change within ourselves, what do you mean?
Well, when we're starting to educate our young people, we go to our young people and get them to understand that they need to pay attention to the politicians. They need to pay attention to the people who are right in your community. You need to know your mayor's name. You need to know that a child who's 16 years
Correct.
old can go to the mayor and
Correct.
say, I need to speak to you because what's going on in our school is not appropriate right now.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. What needs to happen is with the same force and fervor that you are pushing people to vote for the presidency, with that same energy that you are telling them to get out and vote. We need someone else in the White House. Get out and vote. You vote for the president. Voting is your right. With all that energy that you pushing on that level, you need to push that energy locally.
Yes.
That needs to happen locally because that affects every footstep that you take outside your door. That affects you directly. That's where all that energy needs to be refocused to. Vote in your local elections because that's what's going to make a difference in your immediate life. In the immediacy of your life, your kids' lives, your mothers, your aunts, your school, everything having to do with your existence, everything having to do with your life happens in your community,
yes.
in your city.
Yes.
So these are the officials that you need to put in office. That's who you need to pay attention to. Because 9 times out of 10, who's sitting in that White House don't really affect you that much. The one sitting there now does because it's so convoluted that it's trickling down to you. But when was the last time that happened? Yeah. You understand? So
what I want to do, take a moment just for a second. I would let you know that we want you to continue to send in your questions, join the conversation. If you want to call in, dial 301-793-7342. That's 301-793-7342. Also, you can also put your comments in the comment area. If you're a black-owned business, we're supporting all black-owned businesses. Please put your information in there. I'm going to take the time to just kind of slow it down just for a minute. Kimberly Wilson, great information. I have been involving myself with conversations through PGCG with Wanika Fisher, and meeting with the PG County Police, and hopefully find out what training are these officers receiving, given by past experiences. That is so good. That's the things that, again, we need to be doing in our community, going in and talking to the individuals who can give us some answers. And if they can't give us some answers, we request that they do so and let them know that we will not stop until we get some. I also just want to take the time out to welcome quite a few people. Kim, as I just said, Kim Lynch, Mayana, Michael Evans, Angela Gomez, Wilhelmina Brewer. Hey, how you doing there, Pastor Charles Stubblefield, Liz, Octavia Caldwell, Russ Lucas, Annabelle Zelaya, Joey, Ashton, Kevin, Franklin, Tracy Clark, Sean Brooks, Lauren Underwood, Helen Underwood, I think that's Angelique Bullock, Grandma Joyce King, Tina Clayton, Belinda Waller Butler, Angelique Bullock, and Jeffrey Lopez. I welcome all of you. Please hit share. Please hit share. And please remember that it is up to us to take this voice and make sure other people hear it. Because this is not just conversation because we have nothing to do. We're trying to make a change and make the change so that people will feel comfortable going to their local official and say, look, these are the things we need to pay attention to. Majority of police don't even know the law. You know something? You'll find out that they don't. And they'll make their own law while they're standing right there because they have a gun on and a badge, and they'll start trying to make things seem like they are following all the rules and regulations when they're breaking them. Exactly what I was going to say about the good police. Okay, so let me see, the black on black crimes that are still happening right now, we need to march on our own. That's not doing the right thing in our hoods. We have to also be accountable. Mike, that's Michael Johnson. Hey, Mike, you're right about that. We got to hold the people in our neighborhoods accountable for their actions. A lot of these things we sometimes sweep up under the rug as well. we had 2 shootings within the last 48 hours. Again, what I was talking about, and I say this all the time, it starts right at home. It starts right here. Mothers, when you know that your son is carrying a gun inside his home and he's doing these things, it's up to you to start making a change with it. And don't wait till you got to bury your son and cry about what the police did. We were just talking about that when you were saying we hold all the individuals from the chief of police to the mayor to any person that has to be voted into office. We hold them accountable for their actions, and we have to start at home. This is Real Talk Live with Rodney Grimes. People to people, power to power, positive people. I told you, when I be coming in here, we don't rehearse anything. We give you real talk. I have Don Jarrett from Old Town Alexandria, and I have Norman Colvin from Alexandria as well. These homeboys of mine are just amazing guys who just giving you that real conversation. Our topic today is Black Man's Conversation. Real talk.
The thing, and what right now what I want to talk about is the black on black mantra that we've been getting, and I really don't like it. I think it's racist. I know where it derived from, and I know why it came to be. We are the only set of people in this country that is categorized that way. We're the only set of people in this country that they say that about. It's not a white on white crime. It's not a Latino on Latino crime. It's not an Asian on Asian crime. And they all commit them. But it's a black on black crime. And I really want the black community to stop saying that. Don't say it. Don't say it, because when you do that, you are isolating your community away from everybody else and elevating the bad.
Yes.
You understand? We know we have problems in our community. Everybody else knows it as well. What they don't know when you do that, they take the focus on every other thing outside of that.
Yes.
Which, in fact, the crime rate in their communities are higher than ours. Their murder rate is higher than ours. 85% of white people kill other white people.
Who controls that narrative, though?
They do.
Media.
The media. But the media controls it until it gets to us, and then we control it, and it filters through our community by us like a cancer. So we take on what they put out and do their job for them.
If you're so right. When we use the N-word, let's just use that for a second. When it started out, the N-word is such a negative thing, right? But then when we take it, we change it around and make it comfortable. But yet, we can say it in all these areas, and then when they say it and use it for what it really means, we get in our feelings.
Correct.
So what we need to do is we need to correct ourselves. We correct ourselves so that we don't allow them to have the opportunity to do what they do. They flip the script on us and say, well, like you said, it's black on black crime. When, guess what? It's white on white crime.
There's no such thing as black on black crime. It's just crime in the black community.
That statement itself just makes it more justifiable to come in your community and knock you upside your head. Now, you know what trips me out the most? When I'm a bus driver. I've been transit driver for going on 13 years. When I see different nationalities get on my bus and use the N-word,
Right.
Like, they're comfortable with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Use the N-word. I mean, you might have an Asian person, a white person, then you might have a group of them coming from school and be a mixture of them.
You see it from the grassroots.
Right. I'm like, okay. Because one day I got up and stopped my bus and went back. It was teenagers. Got back, went to the back of the bus. And I told them, y'all would not be losing that language on my bus. First of all, you don't know what it means.
Right.
Especially you other nationalities.
Right.
Y'all just use it because these guys taught it to you.
Right.
And they making it comfortable for you. See, when we was coming up, if a person outside our race said, they would probably hit him in the mouth.
They knocked his teeth out.
They wasn't comfortable saying it. But now you find the different other nationalities sitting around, other Afro-Americans, using the N-word.
Right.
Real comfortable. And I'm like, he's degrading you, and then second of all, he don't know how deep-rooted that word is.
Right.
So I don't want to hear that on my bus.
Well, what you were saying is that, and so this is the other thing that happened with us. You know, each day, each one of us, we have to teach. It takes one to teach one. And so you just said something that really just made me have to think about something I've done in the past, and I will not do it again. I will not use the terminology black on black crime. I appreciate you sharing that with me, because when we think about that, we're talking about they're starting to psychologically.
It's subliminal.
Yes, they put this stuff in our heads,
Yes.
and they want people to believe that we are these monsters, and we are right in our neighborhoods, and that's all we do is kill each other.
Yeah, but we're perpetuating it too.
Yes.
We're saying it, and we're isolating our own community with these terms. So when you do that, the focus is on yours and no one else's.
Come on, man.
Everything else is forgotten. Everything else is glossed over, but yours is magnified.
Yes.
They put a big, huge magnifying glass on yours, and whatever's happening outside of yours is insignificant. Yours is the big one. Yours is the bad one. You are the bad people. It's all you. And the world sees it. When they magnify it, it's magnified and carried all over the world. And their crime rate and everything that's happening in their community is never mentioned.
Yeah.
It's never mentioned. This term has been coined and it's used by people all over the world. Well, what about black on black crime? Well, what about blacks killing blacks? You march when a police a white person does this or a white person does this, but what about when black on black crime? That narrative. You cannot continue to do this because you are making your community worse by the things you say. Representation matters. You make it justifiable and like to Don's point, when somebody come into your neighborhood and kill you, the police, this black on black crime narrative has been put out there to such a degree that the general public say that well he was a criminal, well he deserved it, well maybe he didn't do nothing this time, but he has a record this long, so we didn't see what he did before that happened on the camera. What happened before? The president has said that. You understand? So all this stems from that black on black narrative.
Yes.
You really have to understand that. It all stems from that, and what that does is give the general public a perception of you, regardless. And when they have that perception of you, perception is 9/10 of reality. They don't care about whatever happens after that. If they have a perception of you a certain way, they don't care who you are. They don't care if you're a Christian. They don't care if you're a Muslim. They don't care if you're a Buddhist. They don't care if you're a good person. They don't care if you're a college graduate. They care about what their perception says you are.
Do y'all see why I had to bring these brothers back? This is real talk. This is real talk with Rodney Grimes. I'm trying to tell you, it's people to people, power to power, positive thinking people. I'm trying to tell you, my guest today, Don Jared, and I want to call him Junior Farrakhan, but hey, but this is Norman Coleman. Hey, I'm trying to tell you, this is real talk, and we're talking about things that we need to be bringing to our tables. We need to be talking with the youth in our neighborhoods and start to change the way we do things. What do you say?
I wanted to say, and you also got to bring to attention that the Ku Klux Klan organization has invaded your court systems and your police force.
Yes.
They come in a lot of times they come in your neighborhood to do damage to you.
Come on.
They have invaded, infiltrated your police forces and your judge chambers and your lawyers. So because when you, I'm telling you, they're there to do damage to you.
And they have done it.
And
we're seeing that
but
we're seeing that right now. You hitting it right on the head. That again goes back to us who have to make the changes of who we're allowing to get in these positions.
Correct.
When we were saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm not voting. I'm not going to worry about what's going on at this time." But what's happening is they've been secretly infiltrating and putting people in position to be able to dominate.
Be able to let people off when they've done wrong.
Correct. Affect your life.
Affect your life.
Directly.
So this is what they mean by dismantle. They mean get in and get these bad people out that don't mean the law no good.
Correct.
And they're here to do harm to the Afro-American community and the Afro-American community alone.
Correct. And understand, when people say, I don't vote, and who I vote, my vote doesn't matter. You understand? Because this permeates the black community and has been forever. Since my grandmother and your grandmother's my vote doesn't matter. Even more so now among militant, educated blacks. You understand? And to a degree, that may be correct from the presidential standpoint, because we do know that the Electoral College sets your president. You understand me? So you can make that argument with me, and we can talk, about it from that level.
Right.
You understand? Because we know that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, they still set Donald Trump. We also know that Al Gore won the popular vote, and they still set George Bush. You understand?
Yeah.
The Electoral College did this. So we know that. But so it's a dismantled the Electoral College, but they also set the Barack Obama twice. You understand me? But away from that, let's take that off. I'm going to give you that and take that away. I'm going to give you that. Your local legislature has nothing to do with that. The people who you vote for locally has nothing to do with that.
And
no Electoral College set them in place.
That's right.
And that's who affects your life in the immediacy. Your child's life. That school that you send your child to. Your local officials affect his life and her life. That local, that chief of police, that district attorney, that mayor, they affect your life immediately.
Yes.
Not no electoral. Nobody sets them there. You do.
Yes.
And when you don't vote, guess what? You are subject to whatever they are. The Ku Klux Klan and whatever other white nationalists. And another thing, this white supremacist narrative down here, people, don't call them that, because they're not supreme.
That's right.
They are white nationalists. That's what they are. That's what this is. It's a white nationalist symbol. White nationalist. It's not supremacy, because they're not that. That second word.
They use these words to dilute your thinking and
correct.
make you feel
it's
like they're
subliminal. It's subliminal.
Yes.
When you start, if you keep saying a thing, you keep in simple terms from the street. If you hang around a hot dog stand, you don't have to eat hot dogs. If you hang around that restaurant long enough, you're going to buy one. So if you keep saying something out your mouth over and over and over and over again over a period of time, you are going to mentally become conditioned to that. So you're correct. So these are images. They're all over the Bible. The Bible is black history. It's black history, but when you open up a King James, you see what? Images of white faces.
Yes.
They didn't live back there.
Look what Rachel Pope just sent to you. hey, Rachel, we see you, baby. We understand. Rachel say they say he need to run for president. hey, let me tell you something. This is Real Talk Live with Rodney Grimes, PTP, people to people, power to power, positive people. I'm trying to tell you. My guest here is Don Jared, and we have Norman Fleet Colvin, who we gonna have running for president. How about that?
The statue situation that's going on there, with all the Confederate statues coming down all over the country. You can't name me one civilized Western society that had a dictator go into their country, flip it, do the things that the Confederates did in this country, and they have statues erected up. We're the only ones that in Germany. Find me a statue of Hitler. Find me one. In Russia, find me one of Stalin. It's not there. Even though Russia is a communist country, Stalin is gone. Stalin is down. You understand? In South Africa, de Klerk, all them boys, there's nothing there. Nothing. Even though they are terrible, there's no representation of them in that nation.
That's something that
nothing.
This is something that I thought about many, many times as I rode through Washington D.C. I've seen many statues of strong white men, right? Some of them holding babies on their lap, and they're naked, and all these type of things.
That goes back.
And what happens is, So what happens is our mind, we see people with this power. We see them holding, but we don't see what the real messages are because we be blinded to them. And that's why a lot of these statues need to come down, because people don't even know what they're standing for.
Well, when they erected them, they were counting on you not knowing.
Yeah.
They were counting on them controlling the narrative, and they have. up to this point.
Right.
They were counting on you, looking at them from a perspective of the book that you were given in your high school to read about them in reference to the side that was acceptable. They were counting on you not doing your research in reference to who they were and what they did, so that you would look at them in a manner in which you were talking about favorably when they holding and stroking a baby. When they like the one in on 15th Street. In Freedom Park, where when Abraham Lincoln is standing up there with his hand on the slave's head, like this. Yeah. Even though they said a consortium of ex-slaves paid for that statue, they did, but they had no say in the design. They paid for it, had no say in the design. So when it came out with Abraham Lincoln standing up over him with his hand on his head, it not only is it degrading, you understand? He looks like he's begging. He looks like he's bending down at Abraham Lincoln's feet, begging him. Representation matters.
Yes.
Understand me. And when people tell you that I don't think like that, I don't see, it doesn't matter what you individually think like. It matters what collectively we think like. So if collectively we think a certain way and you individually just think that way, then it doesn't matter. It's like Muhammad Ali made a statement. He said, I know all white folks aren't bad. I know that. Understand me. But if it's 100 rattlesnakes outside that door and 2 of them are bad, I mean 2 of them are good, you think I'm going to let all 100 of them in and expect the 2 to protect me? I ain't that stupid. I'm not that stupid.
And the fact is, a rattlesnake is what it is. It's a
It's
rattlesnake.
a rattlesnake, but the point is that the majority of they gonna get you. So representation matters. It matters, folks, and we have been glossing over this our entire existence in this country. From the 60s when Martin and Malcolm was marching, these things never came up. Neither one of them spoke of it. Neither one of them spoke of it.
Didn't they march peacefully and still got killed?
They marched peacefully and still got killed by their enemy. They're your enemy, and I tell people this all the time too. That when you're researching things about what the media is giving you about yourself and about your community, understand, if the enemy's not going to feed you right information about you, who does that? They don't like you. They're not going to give you the information that's going to help you. They never have and they never will. They are just, we've been talking about inferior education in books that we've been giving in our communities that are way less than what they're giving in the white community forever.
Yes.
But you still think that they want to help you. They are leading you to believe this so that they can keep pacifying you and keep feeding you wrong information. And you're going for it. And you have to stop it.
Somewhere I read that the public schools, you think the public schools are actually out there to help you get ahead in life?
No, that's why they develop so many private schools.
Right.
And they send theirs there.
Right.
The
If they were
public
that
schools,
good, they send theirs there.
the public schools is designed to program you.
Correct.
To go work on their job later on.
Let me tell you something. I had a situation with my son on Black History Month one time where he was in about the 7th or 8th grade, something of that nature. And the teacher sent him home and told him that they wanted to talk about slavery, right? And so I told my son, I said, you're not going to write a report on slavery. You don't know nothing about no slavery. So I went to the school, and it was a white teacher, and I went in, and I said, how you doing? I'm the father, such and such, and I just come to let you know that my son is not going to write a report on slavery. And she said, why not? I said, why shouldn't he? He don't know nothing about being no slave. I said, my son ain't going to come in here and try to convince the others that it's okay for him to walk around with chains on his hands. He's not going to come home and study being submissive to another race. I said, so, no, he's not going to do that. She said, well, I'm going to have to let you know if he doesn't participate, he's going to get an F. I said, well, you can go ahead and give it to him now. You can give it to him right now. Because he's not writing no report about being no slave. Because he don't know that. I don't even know nothing about being no slave.
Being a slave, we know about the history of slavery.
And even that is been tarnished because
Considerably.
because this is something else that really bothered me. Do you think that all these black men that came over from Africa sat around for real, and let them beat them unconditionally and just humble themselves and say, yo, I'm going to lay down. I'm telling you by history, I know that there's been thousands and thousands of them who went to their grave fighting.
Oh, insurrections. They were all over the South.
Come on.
They were,
But they don't want to talk about that. They won't put that. They ain't in the history book.
But check this out. And I read the history on coming over on the ship. If you rebelled, you got thrown overboard.
Right.
In the deep water.
Yeah.
But how many bodies are laying at the bottom of the sea?
But do you know that some of them was jumping? They was like they was jumping. They was like, before you get me over there and have me submit to you, I'll go deal with the sharks.
I'm gonna put this in some perspective. Now, I've not only read about it, I've studied it. But more slaves, more blacks died during the transatlantic slave trade than were killed in the Holocaust.
Correct.
More black people died during the transatlantic slave trade, during the transatlantic voyage, to that voyage. More blacks died during the transatlantic voyage than died in the Holocaust.
Come on.
You understand? So to Don's point, we've been fighting them since day one. We've been fighting them the whole time. They weren't docile, sitting back to Rodney's point and just allowing this to happen. They fought the whole time.
And that's what we got to understand.
But they were outnumbered. Like the Indians were outnumbered. They were outnumbered. They were outgunned. They were everything. We have a natural innate want to live.
Yes.
You're not going to do something automatically just out off the top of your head to just die or be killed. That's just not going to happen unless you aren't right in your head. So you're going to do, your first instinct is to live. Self-preservation, that's your first instinct. So you're going to do whatever it is that's in your power to have that be, to survive. When you figure you can't, is when you're going to do other things in order to try to make this thing be.
Hold on. We got some people here getting ready to try to put you in office. I'm trying to tell you that. Yes, if Trump can be, he can also be better. But he says, okay, he got my vote. Hey, they trying to put you in to run for president. Rachel says, as an artist, I think that statue could be redesigned to have the brother standing up beside him with his arms up with broken chains to represent freedom of slavery.
Bingo.
Yeah, now.
But it has to come down in order to have that be.
Right. So let me go back to something else. See, we're talking about change. Now, let me say this. Dealing with the truth of reality and seeing what's going on. Let's face the truth. We start to find out these conversations that we're having is real things that's going on and within yourself. You know what I'm saying? We have been taught to believe that we have been submissive. That we've been, yes, master, yes, master, yes, master. They put that on TV, and they have all the kids and put it in the books that that's all we said was yes, master, yes, master. Yeah, but that's not the truth. That's not the truth. Yeah, oh, come on.
Did that too.
Yeah, now that's a whole nother. Norman, you should run for president. Norman,
we're gonna get there tonight.
Hey.
So let me just say this.
It says better than Kanye West. Hey, but on the real, remember, it's real talk with Rodney Grimes. I'm trying to tell you, I'm excited when I have these brothers come in and we speaking the truth. This is not about trying to put down anybody else. We just talking the truth. We talking about facts. We're talking about things that's going to affect your tomorrow. We're talking about the truth. We're revealing information that should be talked about in your living room, at the table. You should be educating your young kids about knowing that, don't have them thinking that, oh, Christopher Columbus is a good day to have off from school. Because, yeah, come on now. Come on, when they talk about these things.
Olden thug.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to Christianity. Christianity was actually developed to get the slave to turn the other cheek. Sort of like, no matter what I do to you, your family, or your wife, or your father, you forgive me.
Correct.
You know, when somewhere I read when we were released from slavery, they taught us that with Christianity, Afro-Americans, don't worry about going out building your own nation. Just wait on God.
That's
Just
right.
wait on God.
God will build it for you.
God will build it for you.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, that no matter what I do to you, like I said, you turn the other cheek because God don't like ugly. And I'm gonna say this on the Caucasian is the only one that gets away with doing murders, killings, and all that, and he's not scared of God.
Come on.
But we have to be scared of God.
But this one gets me. And even back in the day, when they was publicly hanging people, they will hang you and read the Bible right in front of you to make you feel like you are in a position not to speak your piece because God will be mad at you because you are telling them what he's doing is wrong.
Representation matters.
And let me say this. It was the Christians that were, when you were a bad slave, they had laboratories where they would take you to. The priests did this, and they would cut your limbs off and or cut you up and mange you. And the Christians did this. You know, and are these? Is this the work of God?
Well, one of the things that let me say that the history of America has put everything right in your face. Sometimes when they showed you how they treated the Indians and how they treated black people, they put it on television. They don't have a problem with showing you that.
Did they treat the Indians better?
Huh?
Did they treat the Indians better?
No.
Did they treat them better?
But in the end, I think I read that the Indians signed something.
Oh,
Something.
reparations.
Right.
But Indians have got well, every set of people that America has harmed has gotten reparations from the United States government. And I hear and I hear a lot of blacks, a lot of educated blacks say you don't need reparations and all this other ridiculous crap because it's ridiculous and it's stupid. Slave owners got reparations after they freed you because the government seen them their farms that were going to go into decline. So they got reparations for freeing you, for not having you as slaves, right? But I want to switch this to this, and that is Christianity and America. America has used every tool at its disposal to accomplish its goal, and that includes Christianity and religion. Right, and religion, and understand religion is man-made. I'm not here to attack anybody's religion. Religion, every religion on the face of this earth is man-made. God did not invent religion.
Right.
Understand me, God wasn't a Christian, he wasn't a Muslim, he wasn't a Buddhist, he wasn't a Hindu, he wasn't a Sikh, he wasn't any of those things. And I've studied theology. But I say that to say this, and that is that when these people do what they do to you, when the world flipped, everything about it, when it flipped at every time in society, religion was used.
Yes.
From the Romans on up to the day. Now also as far as white folks is concerned, and us financially and what we do and how we can and how we won't. When we were freed from slavery, and I talked about the watermelon thing, right? As we progressed and as we became more industrious as a society, and as we became more fluent and independent, and we got a hold and a view of how to do what they were doing, we were very good at it. So much so to the point that we built communities that had, to your point the other week, that had banks and schools, hospitals, and so forth. So when this narrative goes out about our community and us being lazy, and a lot of us in our own community say this about our own, understand, and not only is it not true, and they didn't call us lazy when we was picking their cotton, but we weren't lazy then, we weren't lazy afterwards, and we're not lazy now. The only reason why our communities aren't as they were then is because they burned them down. They were not, and it wasn't just one Black Wall Street in Tulsa. It was Wall Street in Richmond, Virginia, Harlem, New York, Washington, D.C., Durham, North Carolina. I mean, I can go on and on and on. They were all over the country. all Watts, California. There were thriving black communities all over this country, with blacks running and millions and millions of dollars.
Destroyed that.
They destroyed them all. Every one of them, and they did that selfishly because they wanted the black dollar to meld with their dollar. The only reason why the black dollar doesn't exist today is because it's intermingled with the white dollar. So they successfully did that. And the only reason why we don't have communities like we had back then is because the white dollar has swallowed up ours to the point where it is set beside theirs, and there is no difference. Although our financial condition is elevated to a point where it's way beyond then, we are wealthier today than we've ever been in this nation. We are the 5th richest nation in the world by far. Understand this, not a fact. So say the Bureau of Vital Statistics. So the black dollar is huge, but you don't see it because it's intertwined with the white dollar into the engine that is America.
And it only stays in our community one time.
Correct.
According to this, staying 9 times.
Correct.
Okay. So hold. I got to jump in there on that one. And that's one of the things that we have to be conscious about too. We have to make sure that in our communities that we make the money stay in the community. We got to get it so that when we say, somebody said, well, why is there no black stores? Well, you know why there's no black stores? Because we don't invest in them. And a lot of times when one come up, what do? We go to the big store instead of giving them, we go to the 7-Eleven and the Safeways and all those stores instead of making sure that those local stores that are owned by blacks in the community are well provided and protected.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say this. I want to back up, then I'll let you move forward. That's just why I got it on my mind. To piggyback what Fleet was talking about for the black communities, saying this is when the Ku Klux Klan was developed. This one it was developed to destroy us.
Yeah, they destroyed it.
Yes. This one the government, they couldn't do it themselves.
No.
So they had to develop.
And that's why they are still not dubbed as a terrorist organization. They were being used by the federal government.
Developed the Ku Klux Klan to destroy the black community.
Yes, they did.
They
did. But let me get this in right quick. And I'm going to go back to Christianity for a second here, and I want to say this, and for whoever out there that understand, Christianity was used to enslave us and keep us enslaved and have us be submissive. But there's also a narrative going around that Christians came over in Africa with the Bible, and they gave you a Bible and told you to pray, and you woke up and they had you in chains. Now, understand, Christianity wasn't introduced to the Africans by white people. That's a wrong narrative. That Bible is very old, and it was rewritten from a book called the Book of the Dead that was worshipped and that was worshipped, written and read by the Egyptians. But the first actual Bible was written in Hebrew, and the oldest one today is in Ethiopia, and it was 2,000 years before the one that you read today.
Yes.
Can I just say this?
So I just want to say that.
Can I say this, Norman? And then when they introduced you to the Bible, they took close to 200 scriptures out.
Out of it.
Yeah.
Correct.
The stuff that would have had you upright against your oppressor.
Correct.
Right.
They left in the stuff.
That was to their benefit. To my point earlier, they use it in order to promote white nationalism.
Yeah.
Well, we got to realize is this: we're not saying that there is not a God.
Oh, no.
But no. I just want, because some people are trying to change that around and say, well, when we're talking about the Bible being tampered with and so forth and so on. I met a brother some years ago when I was doing telephone. He told me about that. He was showing me some information on these books that was way before the Bible, that were actually their spiritual Bible that they were going by, and they weren't calling it a religion.
No, it wasn't. It was spiritual.
It was spiritual. And when we think about that,
teachings and spiritual writings.
yes. And see, that's what we also got to realize is this. Something I asked one of my guests one day, I wanted to know, what is it that history, and when I said his story. His
story.
His story. What is it that is being hidden from us?
Oh my God, everything.
Right, so that we won't really know exactly who we are.
Yeah.
Your lifetime trying to explain that.
Yeah. But they hide this because they have an agenda, and they have had an agenda since they flipped the world. Understand, the world for 10,000 years was run by people that looked like you and I. Europe was settled by people that looked like you and I, and they ran them for thousands of years. You understand me? When the Greeks came and they fought, and they were fierce fighters, obviously because they ruled the world now. So they fought, they took over, right? They won. The one that brought them to the fiercest was Hannibal, and he fought with elephants and so forth, and he beat them and he pushed them back. The only nation that they didn't conquer was Ethiopia. But when they didn't conquer Ethiopia, they made them suffer and perish. Ethiopia right now, when the famine that they've been riddled with for all these tens of years, has all been purposely put upon them. That land has been preyed upon because of this. With Cuba, when they wanted to take over Cuba, when Kennedy's went over there, the Bay of Pigs happened, right? And all that backfired on them. They sought to punish Cuba as a result of it, and when they and within that punishment, they put out narratives about them being communists and doing evil things to their citizens. All this stuff was all made up. The actual fact is that when the world was in famine and the world was in trouble, it was Cuba that was sending out medical teams all over the world that was helping the world. It was Cuba that was doing all these things, not the United States. It was Cuba doing it. So when they can't accomplish their goal in one way, they switch gears and do it with another. But they use the media and they use words and they use narratives to control the narrative in order to change your position mentally and shape your view. Correct. And because that's where the war is won. The war is won before it's ever fought. Sun Tzu, the Art of War. Every war is won before it's ever fought. So this is what they do. This is how they control you. This is how they control the narrative. This is how they get to kill you and justify it, because they control the narrative as it pertains to what they're doing. Correct. They get into your psychological mind, and they do this with words. They do this with pictures. They do this with situations that they shape so you can see that your sight is the most powerful sense that you have. Right? When you see a certain thing, your mind takes a picture of it. And when you hear it, and then when you hear something related to it, it instantly shapes your thought. Whether you keep it or not is a whole nother story. But it's going to go in there. So they know these things. So when they can't beat you that way, they beat you the other way. And that's what they use, because that's long term. Willie Lynch, right? For those of you who don't know who Willie Lynch is, Willie Lynch was a slave, he owned sugar plantations in the West Indies, right? When they first brought the slaves over here, when they touched down in Jamestown, and the slaves were uprising, to our points earlier, combative. They couldn't control them. They started hanging them. So but they couldn't keep hanging them because they had to use them for work. So you can't keep killing them. But they didn't know what to do. What they didn't know is that word had got out that Willie Lynch had control of his plantations over in the West Indies, and his slaves wasn't doing the things that these slaves are doing. So they wanted to know what he was doing. So they paid for Willie Lynch to come. In his letter, the Willie Lynch letters, he said that when he rode down the James River, all he smelled was rotten carcasses, rotten bodies hanging in trees. He said, it said in his letters that he looked at the slave owners and said, How are you all ever going to rise and become dominant when you are killing off your slaves, when you are killing off your help, when you are killing off your farms? How can you rise? You need a system whereby you can control this. So Willie Lynch took this, he would go, his first act, he would go on to the largest plantation. He would take the biggest, and Denzel did a movie once and he said this, absolutely true. He would take the biggest, baddest slave on the plantation. Mandingo, the biggest, baddest slave on the plantation. Make the whole plantation come out and look. Make his sons stand in front with his mothers, their mothers standing with them. You understand me? Strap on ropes at every limb and tie them to horses going in 4 different directions. Whip the horses until they pull them apart. And you will watch this happen. From that point, his philosophy was this. He was diabolical in his methods. He said, once you control their minds, you control their fear. Once you control them to the point where you condition them to this degree, they will not only work for you, they will fear and love you. And 400 years later, they will still be following you, and they will not know you.
Can I stop you right there? If you pick up those pair of jeans, where you see the 2 horses on it, you seen it? That's what that is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The ones, they're Wranglers or which one?
They're Wranglers.
If you pick up the jeans, that little patch on the side, where you see the 2 horses, what he just explained is exactly what that is. When he pulling the man apart.
Pulling them apart.
Pulling them apart. That's come from slavery.
So, hold on. So, because we, you know what? This is, now, I'm just letting everybody know it's going to have to be a part 3. Because these brothers here, let me tell you something. And we're not going to have Norman run for president, because he ain't going to live long. Because I'm trying to tell you, they do not want this truth out, and so we gonna keep coming to you with real talk with Rodney Grimes, PTP, people to people, power to power, power to people. I'm trying to tell you, this is what we need to be doing, is talking about the truth. This isn't about we want to make anybody feel bad. We just want to bring things to the forefront. We want to make people aware of what's going on. You need to know your history. You got to know where you come from. You got to know, if you don't know where you come from, you really don't know where you're going.
So you got to know about where you're going.
Right. That's right.
You have to know about it.
Right.
Not just know it.
But you
about it.
Because what happens is, when you actually start to identify with yourself and understand who you are, then you'll know how powerful you are, and you'll be able to you'll be able to start to channel your direction for your tomorrow to make a difference. And that also applies when we go back to talking about going into the meetings. Go to the voters. You got to go to the people who want you to vote for them and go and ask them, why should I vote for you? Make sure that you make them be accountable for their actions.
Big question.
Do not put them in a position for them to tell you anything.
Continue their narrative.
Correct.
You make it so that when you talk to them, you want a list of everything that they are talking about, and then go back and check their history.
And see if they're in line with something that's supposed to go in your community.
That's right. Because a lot of them will start telling you things that you want to hear.
Give me a lip service.
And what they're doing is, they're doing what Americans have been doing all the time. They're telling us his story,
correct,
to make us not know our story.
Oh yeah. Well, they don't want you.
I want to say this. Even with the 2 presidents that you're going to vote for, and so if voting is coming up, and like Norman said, until the presidents are talking about tackling your issues, there's no real reason to vote for them. We go out and we vote. It's the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, and we got to choose what one we want, the evil we want.
Right.
The Republicans are straight up about their racism,
right?
And the Democrats play psychological games on you with their racism. But believe me, at the top of the scale, neither one of them mean you really no good.
No, they're
not going to allow you to get above them. So you don't hear your president talking about black issues, cop killings, all the stuff that matters to us, to Black Lives Matter. But he'll talk about all this other stuff. He'll get some people to basically just need our votes. So to put it, but once he get in office, he's not going to touch anything that pertains to us.
Yeah, he definitely needs your vote. He
Yeah,
definitely needs
so
your
he
vote.
has to play. The Democrats has to play psychological games on you to get your vote.
Yeah, which
Right.
and I actually prefer the Republicans part because I want to know you're racist. I don't want to have to think you're racist. If a rattlesnake, if I'm in the tall grass and a rattlesnake is in the tall grass, I want to know that the rattlesnake is there, because if I don't know he's there, he's gonna kill me.
Yes.
You understand me? The only way that snake can hurt me is if I don't know he's there. If I know he's there, I'm gonna get away from him. So I want to know you're racist. So I prefer you to tell me and let me know that's who you are. You understand? So with the president that's in there now, I appreciate you telling me. I appreciate your followers letting me know where you are, because now I know how to move around you. I know how to move into you. I know how to get in your face. I know what to attack you with. I know what to do about you. If I don't know your race, I don't know what to do about you.
Right.
Because you telling me and you hugging me and you holding my hand and you're doing all these things, and then you're going sitting in your office and you're writing policy to affect my children in a negative manner. Then I'm looking at you and holding my hand saying, what happened? What happened? But with them, they are writing policy in your face telling you they don't like you. Exactly. So you know what to do about them. So as far as the Republicans and Democrats are concerned, they are two wings of the same bird. If you don't do what Rodney said, and that's pose questions to them that is relevant to your life, relevant to your kids' life, relevant to your grandmother, relevant to your mother. If these issues aren't being discussed or being talked about out of their mouth, if they're not talking about your community in a way that you don't have to, and you're not prompting, you don't have to prompt them, then they are not concerned about you. They're talking about their own. If they're talking about your community on their own, then they care about you. If you don't have to prompt them to say anything about helping you, and because they already know you need help.
Yeah.
They know you're being murdered in the street. They know that your schools are less than. They know that they know that they're underfunded. They know that the educational system that's been in the black community for 100 years has been subpar. They know that your job situation is less than everyone else's in this country. These are things that they know. All they do is talk about them and give you figures. The black unemployment rate is at 13%. The black unemployment rate is lower than it's ever been. Another thing about that, with the president keeps touting what he's done, he hasn't done anything for the black community insofar as the black employment rate is concerned. When he stepped into office, the black employment rate was down. And it was down because of the Obamas and that administration. Everything he wasn't in office long enough to write policy in order to affect our condition. So having said that, well, when he say these things, we all know he's a liar. But the point is, he wasn't in office long enough to write policy to make anything happen in that way.
If you think about that, that's where we realize that Obama's hands was tied from the very beginning.
But he still did what he did.
Now,
and I'm not a Democrat or a Republican.
When we talked about this, this is what I ask people to do. Because we got to be careful. Because I'm going to tell you something. We still are not in position to control the things that we should.
Oh, no.
So we have to start coming together. Let's make sure that we support the black businesses. Make sure we go to the meetings. Make sure that platforms like this don't get taken down. We got to make sure that we are able to keep getting this message out. I see on here, Missy Carter said, I love this. I just joined. I will be on next week. Listen, let me tell you something. This is Rodney Grimes Live, Real Talk, PTP, People, Power, Positive People. I come on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You know what I do? When I got brothers like this, and I don't care who it is that's going to speak the truth, we do specials on Saturday. So when you want to follow us, please go to YouTube and go back and check the last segment that we had. That it was so powerful. And we had other people. Know that we got to keep on backing up these forces where we're being able to get the information out. It's so important.
So to Rodney's point, you have to back these forums. because these are the forums that they use in order to change and turn your mind. These are the forums that they use in order to shape your ideas. These are the tools that they use in order to get you to think a certain way. These are the tools that they use to make you think that you know that you're right about certain things, and you never researched them. You never did. And then when you did research them, you got numbers that were false and that were manipulated. So you didn't look under the numbers and research their research, because that's where you're going to find the truth about your people. You have to research you have to research their research, because they're not going to give it to you straight. That's just not what they do. But these are the forums that you have to support, because this is what they do.
And this is what been going on for years.
Politics is a game.
Yeah.
It's a huge game, and it controls your very life.
It has you where you think that you're doing what you want to do when you're doing what they programmed you to do.
Correct.
And we have to
They
change
call
that.
Psychological warfare.
Politics controls your very life. When they figured this was figured out, the politics controlling your life was figured out during the time of Constantine, the Romans. When they wanted to control the narrative as it pertained to the slaves and the servants and so forth. There were so many; they were vast. They were outnumbered, and they were becoming out of control. So what they did was, Constantine knew that they were spiritual people, right? He knew that they were spiritual people, and not only did he play on it, he said, which religion can I use in order to sway the opinion to me and control the masses? Which one? He chose Christianity. Not only did he choose it, he took the Bible and rewrote it and formed it and called it what we know and what you see today. This all came from him. This all came from Constantine. Look it up. It all came from him. And then he took the books that wasn't going to fit his narrative, to your point, and he omitted them. He omitted them, and he put in that book those things that would control what he wanted to control, which was the masses of the people, without him having to whip them, beat them, and kill them, because it wasn't going to do his nation no good to have dead slaves and dead servants. They had to be working in a way that they were efficient and fast and complete. And the only way that they could do that was to do that under the auspice of God. Because they were godly people, and they believed in God to the point where they believed in a Savior. So he created one, and he gave it to him, and he gave it to him in the form of Christianity.
And we got to be careful. We got to be careful and understand again what we stand for. I am a true believer in God. I believe in God. I don't like to claim a religion, because so many things are so contradictory. But what I do believe that there is a higher being than man.
Higher power.
Yeah, it's a higher power. I believe that 100%. What I would like to do is just again acknowledge some people. Kimmy Kim, she said, "Spit the knowledge, black man." Hey, that's 100. I did already talk about Kelly. She said, "I love this. So sorry I just joined. We'll be on next week." And then we got Rachel said, "I would love to suggest this segment be once a month for Real Talk." We are definitely going to do that. I got some other people that we get ready to bring in, but I never have enough time with these two gentlemen, and especially with the candidate running for president here,
President Norman Fleet.
President Norman Fleet. Hey, so, but I just want to say that, God is good. We put God first in everything we do. We just have to be real about when we go about it. Don't live in a fantasy world. Let me tell you something. It's almost like this. I tell many people, you can pray and pray all day long and stay in that one spot. And believe me, if you don't get up and do something, you're not going to get your prayer answered. But when prayer without work, it's dead. So see, you gotta get out there and do things. That's why we're talking about going out and know who you're allowing to be your mayor who you're allowed to be your city councilman. You got to get in control of that. You got to make your voice be heard. You got to get out there and let them know that you're not afraid to vote. And I'll tell you something, we talked about this earlier. If you want changes in Congress, you got to start down here.
Yes.
You got to start right here at the local level. That's where you got to start. Because by the time you jump over the local people and try to go up there, it's a waste of time.
Nothing's going to happen. And that's why nothing has happened for our community for so long, for all this time. Because we've been doing exactly what you just said. We've been jumping over the local level because we have been fed and led to believe that this is where we need to be focused on in order to have change happen. It was never there. That was never the area that we should have been focusing on ever.
If you
and
thought
we've
about
been focusing on that since the beginning, since Martin and Malcolm.
Yeah.
Well, Malcolm told you to vote local. But this is where our attention has been focused, and it's been wrong. And they have been pushing us there because they want us to forget about the local.
Well, you know to bring that to light. That's why you'll notice that in conversations, when the mayors are making these decisions, they have more power over the jurisdiction of the locations where they are.
Look what Mayor Bowser just did. When she went and put Black Lives Matter in the street.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing the president can do about that.
That's right.
This is her territory.
Correct. And not only that, in Atlanta, with that mayor, she just shut down Atlanta again. Contrary to the government, contrary to what he said and whatever he thought, she shut it down. Period.
Yeah.
You understand? So this is what this is what affects you immediately. And if you didn't know that now, just pay attention to the news right now, and it'll show you how much power your local officials have. You have to concentrate and focus on your local governments, your local officials. You have to vote them.
That's right. We have to make sure that we hold them accountable. This is Real Talk Live with Rodney Grimes, PTP, People to People, Power to Power, Power to Think of People. I'm getting ready to run out of time here, but I want you to know, hey, and you know, that's how, when you're really into it and then you're hitting some good points and things are going forward, we look and we be like, oh man, there's not enough time in the day. You guys are so right. I ran across some info, and they are doing it again for the next trend to develop a new economy, and our people is not ready for what's about to happen right under our nose. You know something? Let me tell you something. You know, it's real. When I say real talk, that's why I said that. I use that terminology to represent this program, because you got to be real with yourself. Deal with the real reality. You know, if you know that things are not right in your community, go and find out why. Don't just listen to the news media, because the news media tell you that 100 black people got killed when 1,000 white people got slaughtered.
That's right.
And they won't tell you about it.
Oh.
You see? So, you got to watch what's going on. Had you ever noticed? I try not to say certain things. I don't want to talk about the government. I don't want to talk about the president. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about the truth. The truth of the matter is that you are in position to make changes. Your son come in your house and his pants hanging down, you make him pull them up. See, by society, the way they look at it, they put it out there. I had a pair of pants on yesterday, and every time I turned around, I was pulling up. By design, that they're designing them to fall down off of me. I get rid of them. You see, because I'm not going to walk around with my pants hanging down. I'm going to make a determination. I'm going to make that decision to determine how I'm going to present myself. And not let people do that for me. We, the people, have to make those changes. Before I close out, again, I just want you to know it was always, and it will definitely be another time to have the pleasure that I had Don, Jared, and Norman. Now I want to start calling him Norman. I want to start calling the President Norman, Fleet, Colvin, that they came in and they shared this information with us. Remember, this is about us. People to people. What I tell you, people to people, that's me, you, and them. Them can be anybody you want it to be. And the power we possess, the power they possess, and the power we need. All of these things are very important. And what happens when we get the truth about who we are, we become positive thinking people. Y'all remember that. So, with that said, I send you peace and blessings. Again, I thank you. We're going to elbow it up. I thank you. I thank you, my brothers. And believe it or not, we will be coming back again. And stay tuned, because I got some more powerful people that we'll bring in. And this ain't the last time you're going to see these two, because we right at the top. Just kind of pushing it up. We just cracking the surface. So I'm going to set another date for them to come right back in, and we're going to follow up with this. And oh, okay, yeah. My director behind the scenes is giving me information on the things that I have to do, and so what she said is that y'all have to close out. So I want to give you a couple of seconds to say what you need to say before we go off the air, and then we'll let you have a few words. Well, what would you like to say to our watchers?
I just like to say a little something about the Christianity. A lot of times people might not even like this, but and this is I do a lot of research on, and I listen to a lot of speakers, and one of my speakers was saying that there's nothing wrong with religion. There's nothing wrong with religion. Religion is good for the most part. It's a lot of times, and like I said, some people might not like me saying this, and I find this to be true too. It's the pastors that doesn't take religion and wake you up. They take religion and put you to sleep. Follow me? They should be taking religion and doing more with the people or waking them up. But so a lot of pastors put you to sleep for their own narrative. And that could be,
yes.
Oh, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, black folks, and what I want you all to do, first and foremost, I want you to concentrate on your locals, and your local governments, and your local legislature, and I want you to put more focus on that insofar as your voting power is concerned, because it's going to affect your kids' lives. But more importantly, these things that people put out in reference to Black Lives Matter and black on black crime and those kind of slogans. I want you to stop using slogans that you hear that degrade you and your community. Because when you're using them, you may not think it degrades you, but you're part of the community you're talking about. So obviously you're going to be looked at in the manner in which you're speaking of in a negative fashion as it pertains to your community. So if positive things can't come out of your mouth in reference to something having to do with your community, and there's a lot wrong with our community. Understand, there's a lot wrong with every community. But the only community that people are talking about in the manner in which they are, and so far as the negativity is concerned, is ours. And then we do the same thing. And understand, I know we have problems insofar as the murder rate now in our nation and so forth, and we will address that. But we have to address what we are addressing right now first. And after we get finished addressing that, we will address the others having to do with our individual community issues. But the black on black crime narrative has to stop, and other things that pertain to our community that put us in a bad light has to stop. You have to stop saying that because it makes you look bad too, because it's your community too. Whether you want to be a part of it or not, when you get up and look in the mirror and your skin is black, they're looking at you as that, period. No matter what you say or do. That's how they see you, and that's how they're going to always see you. So the more you put positive light on that, the more they'll see you in a positive light and your offspring.
How about that?
That's going to have a lot to do with how they react to you.
No question.
And what you got to think about, this is something that my guest Michael Johnson said, and I'm going to close on this. He said, a black man and a white man can put on the same uniform. Same uniform. And then when they put on that uniform, now the uniform speaks for itself, right? But when they go home and take off the uniform, what happens?
They see black.
They see black and they see white. They don't see the uniform anymore.
Right.
So even though they had the same uniform when they had it on, you try to give them the same power
And respect.
and the same respect. But what happens when they take it off?
Yeah.
And
They become two different
they
men.
become two different entities, and now you're not looking at two men, you're looking at a white man and a black man. And now you're starting to see that same person that was sitting on the bench to say to you, I can give you 20 years if he was black. and he didn't sit on that bench and he get pulled over by the police and he don't have his credentials on, he might get body slammed, dragged.
Oh, it happened.
You know what I'm saying?
It happened.
So you got to know that it's all about you. You make the change. This is Rodney Grimes, Real Talk Live. People to people, power to power, positive thinking people. God bless you. See you soon.